I'm taking you to Pennsylvania. It's a youth football team. This football team has been punished after reporting that black players were called racial slurs during a game. Now, a youth football team has been forced to suspend part of its season after reporting that a rival football team, you have to understand the context, racially harassed some of its black players during a game. According to WPMT News, racial slurs and other derogatory statements were made at a game last month between Seven Sorrows Eagles and Boiling Springs Bubblers, right? Members of the Seven Sorrows Eagles were reportedly targeted by their opponent. Quote, during our game, the derogatory words were being said to specific players of color, end quote, said the Eagles head coach, Mr. Percy Maple. The mother of one Eagles player said her son saw a Bubblers player push one of his teammates to the ground, then make a racist remark or racist remarks. Quote, they said, stay down, black boy, don't get up, Mikey, end quote, Brittany Smith recalled. Quote, that's just disgusting to me, end quote. Eagles parents confronted the Bubblers coach, but the exchange ended with their removal from the field by security. They subsequently made complaints to the Capital Football Association. It's called the CFA, Youth Football League. It's a complaint. They oversee both teams. But instead of penalizing the Bubblers team for their conduct on the field, league officials decided to punish the victims or the Eagles. Maple says the team was ordered to suspend 2 games with no fans. When the team challenged the decision, the league decided to extend the penalty to a 3-game suspension for players at all levels, meaning more than 220 kids who play and cheer across various age levels had to forfeit their games for the rest of the season. Maple and his assistant coach were also banned from the league for the rest of the season. That already seems heavy-handed, right? That seems extreme, sounds like retaliation, obviously. We're talking about a youth-oriented sport where the main agenda of competition is development of self. That's the real competition. You're at competition with yourself to become a team player, to understand what it's like to make sacrifice in the practice, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about winning a damn game. It's about developing as a moral person, young person, character, we called it. Now, the league's board also claimed that one Eagles player directed, quote, threats toward the organization as he left the stadium in the presence of school district leadership, end quote. That player was kicked off the team and barred from the league. Everyone was upset. Everyone was like, we're not sure why we're getting punished, Smith said. Quote, now I have to tell my son that his season's over, end quote. The CFA can take our seats, but they cannot take our spirits, she said. Quote, we're not letting them break us, end quote. The Eagles are now requesting other teams to take part in a scrimmage games in the hopes of giving their players a chance to play on the field. That is correct. That is the spirit of not simply survival, but that is the spirit of thriving. That is the spirit of thriving. First of all, you don't want to be in that racist ass league anyway. That's my opinion.
Right.
So let's just call it what it is. Now, the CFA, obviously, they're making this decision. It seems heavy-handed. Some people have to back the play that's part of the board. You may not want your children to be part of such an organization that will make a decision. I know I wouldn't want my child to be part of that. So you are in the position you should be in, and that is called informed. You are informed. Now, here's a novel idea. In addition to having your scrimmage games, how about you create a league that's not racist? One that challenges the dogma and doctrine of the CFA. Because it sounds like you have at least 220 young people and their families who are willing to support it. This isn't the first case of racial abuse against a football team that we've covered. If you remember, David Douglas High School. This was in Portland, Oregon, was facing extreme and constant, blatant racism. So extreme that some football players were coming to their coaches in tears, crying. Last year, we reported David Douglas football team has competed in 3 away games against rival high schools in Oregon so far this season. Each game has brought a deplorable barrage of racial hate speech and behavior, according to Frazier. He says his black players have been subjected to monkey sounds, chants of the N-word, and being called King Kong, among other slurs. And if you recall, we're not simply talking about coming from other student or youth players, but from adults who are in the stand. So here we are. It's very sad. You see, this is bullying. This is called bullying. And if there's an attorney listening, and you happen to have a license in that jurisdiction, may I say to you that bullying, verbal bullying, and adults who have a duty to protect, meaning they're in a position of authority as it relates to youth safety, they also have a duty to protect youth from verbal insults that are contextualized as bullying. If they do not provide said protection, proper complaints have been logged, there could be a massive lawsuit. You have 220. You definitely have enough for a class action here. If you happen to be an attorney licensed in that jurisdiction, I encourage you to take a look at this case. All right, Professor, thoughts here?
Yeah, it's teams and clubs and all these things are supposed to be the way in which we Americans, especially young Americans, find community. We learn that we can be a team even if we're members of the team are different from one another, right? It's like an critical, as you said, it's not just about sports or developing athletic skills. It's actually about developing your ability to be in community, to build those bonds that are so important in adolescence. But I just think a lot of younger people in this country, just several different things. First of all, most younger people in this country, for most of their lives, if they're under 18, have grown up with Trump as the most important political figure in this country. Think about how difficult that must be to have the most powerful person in your country, let alone the world, probably be so negative and mean-spirited. So that doesn't set the best of examples, right? Second, many people have lived through COVID and they just are quickly giving in. So it's, we're really at a time now where it's become so easy to be mean-spirited, social media as well, right? How many of our viewers or listeners have ever had a civil conversation or dialogue or debate on social media? It's very rare, right?
Yep.
So the thing is, when one wants to create community, you have to set certain rules and norms for that community, right? So if it's of course kids can be discriminatory and they might have been even before, or they have been even before the advent of social media and COVID and Trump. But, in the past, and in most cases, I hope today and into the future, when one kid does that to another, there are penalties, there's repercussions for those actions, right? But now, just think about this, right? We have a president who claimed to be there for Black and brown people, for Hispanic people, for Black men, in particular Black men, right? That was like almost a slip. Claim for Black people. But in reality, on every single step this administration has taken, including expunging top military generals who are African American, the most esteemed of the esteemed, and at least in a very traditional nationalist way, has been about excluding those groups. So kids are learning those lessons. And the only way we can change things is for our leaders, people like, for example, coaches in football leagues and other leagues, to show that things can be very different.
That's right. And that's exactly what they are showing with these teams that have responded. to the coaches, to the parents, to the youth, I'm very proud of you. You have millions of people very proud of you. The vast majority of individuals support you. The minority of individuals just sound loud. All right. They're loud, but they're not more. So just remember that. Very thankful for your leadership.